Hello there. Welcome to the HR Approved podcast. We're at episode 6. Today we have an awesome guest. I'm telling you, you guys are going to want to listen to this, especially if you sell something, if you create content. We're talking to the CEO and founder of DEMANDI.co. His name is also Blake Williams. Here he is, Blake Williams. We're on his LinkedIn profile. For those who are watching, he runs DEMANDI.co, ecosystem-led growth marketing platform for content creators, salespeople. I mean, there's big use cases for the recruiting community, headhunters, talent acquisition people. We're going to talk about his background, talk about how he got into the space. He's a serial entrepreneur, runs multiple companies, runs startups, bought and sold companies. Really successful guy and really interesting to listen to. He's got some awesome stats. Can't wait to chat with him. Let's dive in. Well, all right. Welcome to the podcast, Blake Williams. How are you, sir?
What's up, Blake? I'm fantastic.
Man, just so the audience knows, briefly tell them how we got connected. It was just through LinkedIn. I just went searching for my own name on LinkedIn. I was shocked to find out that there are over 100 pages
Tons
of Blake Williams's on LinkedIn. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. I requested to connect with like a few folks that looked like they were active on the platform just to see kind of what my fellow brothers from other mothers were up to,
Yep.
And so, yeah, I'm really excited to chat with you, man. Thanks for coming on.
I'm excited to be here, man. And there is a ton of Blake Williams. In fact, oddly enough, we connected years ago, and then just recently, I was mistakenly tagged as you in a webinar you were supposed to be on, and I was like, hey, I think you got the wrong one, man.
Yeah, that's
that was
hilarious.
great.
Was it with Recruiter Flow?
Yes, it was with Recruiter Flow. So
That's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's gonna release later this week on YouTube. But
Nice.
yeah, that was my first like live webinar that I was ever in. But yeah, dude, that's hilarious. I wonder how many times that might happen after this. But
yeah, I know.
Yeah, I've listened to your podcast with the go-to-market cheat code. I got halfway through Beyond Pipelines, and so I feel like I've spent a little time with you, although we've never spoken before live. But I feel like this is going to be fun, man. And your beard was longer in those other podcasts. You had a backwards hat on. I was like, man, I feel like I'm the Scotch Irish version of this Blake Williams here. It was cracking me up.
Oh yeah.
If you had the backwards hat on, I was going to throw it on and just see how close we could match.
And just match. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to be like, whose podcast is this? Who's interviewing who here?
Yeah. Right.
But, yeah, man. I just want to know how similar we are. Are you a Star Wars fan at all?
Oh, I love sci-fi stuff. I love Star Wars. I watch it with my girls. I've got 4 girls. But yeah, wow. I'm all into the space stuff.
Awesome. What's your favorite Star Wars movie? Just curious.
Oh, geez. It's hard to have a favorite. I think probably
or your favorite sci-fi movie. You could go sci-fi.
I'm ex-military, so anything with a lot of fighting and action is fun for me. The space stuff makes it really interesting because they get creative with all the weapons and all that good stuff and the activity.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I'm a big fan of a lot of it.
Yeah, one of my favorites is The Creator.
Oh yeah.
That was such a good one. It's so underrated. And they have, for the budget they had, it was like 80 million compared to some of the stuff Disney's doing with Star Wars, like 200 million for pure dog shit. You know what I mean? It's insane.
Yeah, it is nuts.
Do you play Fortnite at all?
I've played it a few times, but my wife, like I said, 4 girls.
You're not playing Fortnite.
Leaves me almost no time to veg out like that. Although I'd love to.
Yeah, you got too many companies, too many kids to be playing video games.
That's it. But I was a hardcore Black Ops fan, man. My brother and I got out of the Army and he got out of the Air Force, and we went to college together, and we actually shared a room, then shared a house together. And that's when Black Ops was like the new thing, Call of Duty 2 and all of those. I'm so far behind and out of it now, but I used to game hardcore
That's awesome.
for sure. Yeah.
What AI are you teamed up with?
Actually, we were about to add an advisor to our company, DEMANDI, and his name's Adam, and he's on the go-to-market team for OpenAI. I'm a fan of many, and I think that you should leverage It's no different than hiring agents, right? You should hire agents for specific tasks that are small so they can execute brilliantly with a
Right.
confined scope. And I think that multiple AIs have that same relevance. No matter what you're trying to do, you should pinpoint what they're great at for you, and then get aligned. So we use Perplexity. I use Replit to build some web apps. We're obviously have OpenAI piped in there. We just built a ghostwriter on 11 Labs voice AI, so you can come and talk to an actual ghostwriter and it'll produce a LinkedIn post. Works on like narrative structure, hook structure, tells you if you have a good idea or a bad idea, what's a better idea, all at the click of a button. You can call her. Her name's Sophie. So like we're leveraging all of those plus automation on Make and things like that to make some crazy things happen.
Wow, that's awesome. We'll have to dig into that. I'm teamed up with Gemini, but I do kind of tinker around and see what some of the other ones say. But man,
Yeah.
I thought I was a founder, but compared to you, it's not even close, man. I'm over here playing with Tinker toys, getting a few deals here and there, but you're like
Bad habit.
absolutely crushing it, dude. Crushing it. You're a
It's a bad
serial
habit.
entrepreneur. Multiple companies. You're like starting, buying, selling, investing, $1 million companies. It's incredible, dude. I feel like I got a ton that I can learn from you and the audience can learn from
Yeah.
you. So this is going to be good.
Yeah. I feel like I'm late and early in my journey, right? I probably had nine companies. Out of them, 3 were a success. I was able to buy 2 already running successful ones. That takes the pressure off a startup, but it's a bad habit. I'm probably a horrible employee. I like to do what I like to do and take action when I want to, as fast as I want to. I like to move fast and break things. In another company, that's not a great structure.
Not at all.
You know?
About your background, you were telling a little bit of your early story in the Beyond Pipeline podcast, and you were an
Yep.
Army vet, and
Yep.
you went through that struggle of transitioning into the civilian world and kind of facing that uphill battle of landing your first job, and
Yeah.
then you landed your first role in procurement, right? And you
And
kind of
yeah.
hated that. You suffered through it, but you still, because of some of the values that your parents ingrained in you, right? If you're going to do something, do it right,
Mhm.
So you still tried to master it. I felt that so strongly because, I kind of struggled early in my career trying to find my way, right? My first job selling insurance, and I was selling life insurance. Man, I hated that. I suffered through it for
Mhm.
3 years, and before I finally felt like I found my way. But when I was looking at your LinkedIn, I kind of put my recruiter hat on and just looking through your career, it seems like it really launched during your time with this company called Business Evolution. You were like rapidly promoted and you moved around in different areas of the business over that 6-year period. So why don't we start there? Can you kind of walk us through that time
Yeah.
period and kind of how that led you into your investor and like go-to-market advisor and startup career?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a cool story. So it's not on my profile, but I got hired at GE right before Business Evolution, and I quit on my 5th day. They got my name tag wrong and on my cubicle, and I was in a big cubicle farm up there in Cleveland, and I was supposed to be doing strategic sourcing, right? Helping source material for their lighting division. Not super sexy, but either way, I quit. They got my name wrong. I turned back around, walked over to my new boss, and I said, "Hey, today's my last day. I won't be staying the whole day, but best of luck and thanks for the opportunity." And made some calls, and then I went down to Business Evolution, and they were an investor was taking his own private money and investing in AI. And this was the other kind of AI that's not generative, right? Where we're doing machine learning. We would go into companies like HCA or Murphy Oil, big old companies that have massive infrastructure, data everywhere. And back in 2014, you think disparate data is a problem today. It was a big problem back then because data lake and data warehouse were very, very new. And the way that people structured things was very archaic. So we'd come in and model and map their business processes. And I ended up pushing my way through to, and this is really kind of got my juices going, pushing my way through to helping them visualize what an application would look like if AI sat over top of any core revenue process that they had. So input, throughput, output across multiple different departments, and then having machine learning learn about where the points of friction are between the teams, and then make recommendations based on what was actually happening throughout the systems on what to change from a process perspective. So visualizing that every time we would go in and sell, I would basically use, I forget what application it was that I used to create wireframes, but I would wireframe it up to the CTO and he'd be like, okay, so that's what you mean by AI. Cause back then people would look at you like, robots? What are you talking about? So it's a very hard thing to sell. We were very, very early, but yeah, moving my way up through that got me excited. And I ended up meeting a guy in Vegas. And this will transition to how I left Business Evolution. I met a guy in Vegas, and I don't know if this was on the other podcast or not, but we were drinking, and he had just won $1.8 million over 2 nights sitting down to play Texas Hold'em. And I was like, how the hell did you win that much money? What do you got to sit down with just to win that level of cash? He's like, well, you got to sit with 5 million to play. And I was like, well, what do you do? He's like, I sued Johnson & Johnson and McKesson and all these other medical companies when they have a mass tort lawsuit where it's like metal on metal hip, call here, or mesothelioma. So I was like, oh, really? I'm in healthcare, and I was working with HCA at the time, helping them with their data. They own 270 hospitals, so I met a bunch of people from insurance companies. So I ran around to Blue Cross Blue Shield, Aetna, United, and I said, hey, HIPAA-compliant data, it's all de-identified. How many million lives can I buy off you? And so I got quotes from all of those people, and I said, hey, I need $3 million, and I can go buy $180 million in de-identified lives, so personal healthcare records of what their disease was, what they were diagnosed with, and how they were treated. Well, those lawyers are funded by hedge funds. So they stroked a check for $3 million. I ran around and bought all that data, and then we were using it to re-identify the data because HIPAA's outdated. Even back then, it was outdated. So we bought that data set and then bought another data set to re-identify who the people were. So we could tell that you lived in Raleigh, North Carolina, in this zip code +3, which is like a 4-block radius, that there's 5 white males that are 59 years old that live in this zip code that have this diagnosis. And this is where you should spend your ad dollars on TV, radio, print, and have someone go door knock to get this client. Because one case of mesothelioma, they were paying me $50,000 a person that I could identify and confirm that they had mesothelioma. It was worth $397,000 to their case. So now it's just a funding problem. So I sold that list off, and then I went to work for a venture capital studio in Chicago. So that's that story.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it looked like you were, like when you started there, it was like a director of something I didn't recognize, then product manager, then business development manager, then like director of data science. And then,
yes.
Yeah, they just kind of moved you all over the place depending on, I mean, you just kind of write your own ticket, basically. You're identifying revenue opportunities and markets and going to the leader and saying, hey, look, this is what we can do. Let me run this. And they're like, oh, okay, just go do it.
That's it. To the point that I already had an MBA and an undergrad in economics, and then I went and got a master's degree in data science just to be able to do that job better. But, I love selling. My first job out of the Army was working at Gold's Gym, selling memberships. But that taught me a lot about sales, a lot about how to connect to people. And people are people. I don't care if you're a CTO of a $2 billion company or you're a founder or somebody in between. People just like to talk about their problems and how we can solve them. And that's the easy part.
You're the next Hormozy then, right?
I don't know about that. I like his content, though. I like his content.
He's got some good stuff. Well, how did that lead you into your focus now? It seems like you're focused on like the account-based marketing and partner program. Yes. So tell us about that journey.
So at Digital Intent, it's a venture studio that also did consulting. And so I was a managing director there. And we'd go in and we would work with big brands to think about how to launch a portfolio of 8-figure startups. So their CTO and their chief innovation officer, they may have innovation hubs around the world. And we would work with that team to identify how they were coming up with ideas that their customers wanted and how to take them to market, get them to MVP, validate with their alpha, beta, delta customers. So I would help acquire those alpha, beta, delta customers. And I said, wow, I'm not making enough money here. Doing well, not making enough money. I can go own my own thing. So I went and started a marketing agency, having never really done marketing or ran an agency or been in one or even hired one. And our first customer was a $2 billion customer, Avaya. And so the CMO said, hey, we already have an ABM agency. We don't really need another one. And I was like, well, where's the massive flow of revenue today? And do you have ABM running there? They were like, well, we're a $2 billion company. We get 60% of our revenue from partners. We're not doing anything there. I said, okay, give me that job. And he said, okay. So our first customer was $25,000 a month, 12-month subscription. And half of it was paid by Avaya, half of it was paid by the partner. And so it was really easy to get the deal done. Immediately out of the gate, we started failing because we were just doing what Forrester and everybody else said to do: run ABM, display ads, measure engagement, all the other stuff. And then we added integrated campaigns to it. So we had SDRs doing outbound at the same time. Started failing. CMO's like, what's going on? We're 6 months in. We see a ton of engagement in our accounts and no conversion. So I was like, okay, I just defaulted to, let me just wrap ABM around your sellers' black books. The way that they would hire sellers then is that if you'd sold to Progressive 5 times before, you're going to sell to them again in this cycle. Let's wrap ABM around that. All of a sudden, deals are going up and they're closing faster, closing better. Then I did that for all their sellers, ran out of sellers. I was like, oh, shit, what do I do now? And so I went to partners because they were very acquisitive. So I said, hey, partners, have your sellers send us their target account list and we'll wrap ABM around it. So like every seller in the world's like, hey, here's my list. And we started doing that for their net new accounts, but also we were sending them introductions to our current accounts. All of a sudden that flywheel started going and I stopped doing direct ABM and only did partner stuff, because if we partnered on something, I can intro you to my customer base. You can intro me to your customer base. Why wouldn't we go to market together if we're selling not the same thing, but selling to the same people, right? So we can cross-pollinate our audiences and do better together. That's when I fell in love with partnerships and ecosystems, and my ABM agency turned into just that. And then I built DEMANDI after that.
That's incredible, man. I feel like the way I'm doing business development right now is in the Stone Age compared to what you would probably, like how you would approach like growing a company like Hyperdrive Recruiting. Maybe we can chat about that offline, but tell us about the companies that you have now. I saw Amp Factor still in play, Growth Story is still in play. You're still to present with that. And then the new one, DEMANDI. But let's start with Amp Factor. What is that?
So Amp Factor is that ABM agency that was activating strategic accounts between two businesses. So if Microsoft has a partner, and Microsoft gets 98% of their revenue through partners, so they're primarily sold indirectly. There's a lot of companies like that. We would basically run the ABM campaigns around that customer intro, that customer opportunity intro to trigger pipeline and high value accounts. Now I ended up selling off that customer list to another agency, and I kind of just advise now. So it's kind of an artifact there, but
okay. Did you introduce them to Blue Voyant?
Blue Voyant? Actually, no. Those were, so Blue Voyant, I believe, is a competitor of ours, I believe, or maybe not. I don't know. Who's Blue
Voyant? I just know Microsoft does a lot of partner sales for Blue Voyant.
Yeah, they've got like 492,000 partners in their ecosystem, which is an insane amount. But yeah, we've moved on from that because, as you see, the way that people buy actually hasn't changed, but the technology has caught up to the footprints in the snow. Like if we think automated outbound is kind of us putting a sidewalk down when it snows, people will take the shortest path to where they're going, right? And that's the footprints in the snow. And so part of what we see with this go-to-network or this explosion on social is that people buy from people. So your personal brand has really become, something that can get you a new role, something that can get you promoted faster, something that get you taken away from a company and hired into another. But if you're a founder of any size company, ultimately it is the way that you will connect more with your audience, right? And so people buy from people, and that is a dominant thing that people have always done. They've connected to friends to figure out what's the stuff that they should buy. And now we're in that game of helping brands build with their networks. So as opposed to you standing on a stump saying, hey, here's what we do, why wouldn't you have 15 to 20 to 150 people saying, hey, look what I just did on Clay. I just built this workflow. Oh, I've got that problem. Boom, automatically come high intent inbound. But what you're really doing is you're accessing hundreds of different audiences again and again and again, right? And so you can create that memory trigger of becoming known for something by being permanent in those individual audiences, and you're changing the messenger. You could already run ads to any audience that you wanted to. But when you change the messenger, you change the impact. And when you change the impact, you change how that's stored in the memory, right? Because Blake told me about X, Y, and Z. That goes down a little harder than I just scrolled through and saw your ad, right? the organic CPM is actually significantly better.
Interesting. Next, let's talk about growth story.
Yeah, growth story failed. So that's one
Oh,
of my,
wow.
yeah. So we invested early in being able to create content for partners. Like you'd use AI to automatically generate your landing page and all the right content and all that good stuff. I should have known, having worked with a bunch of marketing teams before, that that wasn't going to go well, but it was a good idea. We ended up making $500,000, so it wasn't that bad. I didn't lose money on it, but it was too hard of a business to sell and too hard of a business to win trust in. Maybe the climate might be different now, but yeah, I shut that down at the end of 2023 and was just advising other companies as I built DEMANDI. And we started DEMANDI, which is slightly different, right? It's about going to market with your network and letting the person show up in studio authentically and create content for your shared audience. We're kind of hell-bent on this idea. We've launched like 3 weeks ago. I was trying not to sell to the individual because I didn't want to have to go out there and say, hey, you should build your personal brand and that kind of thing. So we initially sold it at $1,000 a month, and I wasn't even pitching it. I would let people come to us, and if they say, hey, I love that experience, I want to do it for myself. I'm like, okay, it's $1,000, mostly because I don't want that kind of business. But we got 9 conversions. So we had $9,000 a month coming in, and my co-founder, we weren't arguing about it, but I was against it. And he was like, let's just have an individual offer and drop the price down to $299, and we'll truncate the offer to 8 videos and see how many people convert. It's literally only been 17 days, but we have 137 people who converted on that. And all we're doing is just mentioning to people that, hey, LinkedIn algo is pushing video. It's hard to show up and get your ideas formatted and structured in a way consistently that makes you look good and is engageable. We solved that process. Click here to try. And people are buying without meetings, right? And so now that's kind of shifted, not a lot of our business because it's still a small portion of our MRR, but man, it's taking off. And we've wrapped a referral program around it and all kinds of things.
Wow. I need to look into that. Sounds like, because I struggle with the same thing, trying to, stay on message, right? Keep my content focused on my ICP. And I confuse the algorithm. I know I do because I'm all over the place and trying to use podcast clips, and some are relevant to, I think, more of the candidate job seeker population than they are like my actual ICP, which is going to be a hiring manager,
Yes.
Yeah, I need to kind of do some more homework on that. I feel like I'm always tinkering, but I haven't figured it out yet, that special secret sauce, magic sauce. But yeah, maybe I should look into that. So how could I benefit from DEMANDI, right? So you said you go into the platform and it's going to help you create this niche ICP focused content, and all you have to do is you have to read what it says, basically.
We believe that AI content has its place, and so do ads. But what we really try to do is pull the genius that you already have out of you in a way that's relevant. So you come into the platform, you establish what your objective is. Like, I want to be known for ecosystem-led growth marketing or something like that. And you just write out what your audience is and talk to us about the key scenarios that they get stuck in. Like, when you think about a prospect who is high intent, what are the things that they come to you and say, and what are the problems that they have? I can't hire for this role, and AI is gumming up my system, and I can't tell good from bad. We run down those lists, and then that becomes the key scenario that your audience is stuck in. And then we take the POV that you want to be known for, like the best way to hire for new candidates is to have XYZ, whatever that is. And so our application will give you a bunch of prompts that create content that help the audience bridge the gap between what you want to be known for, your POV, and where they're stuck today, right? Either from vulnerable content, emotional content, tutorial content of here's how you should do X, Y, and Z. Here's how we do X, Y, and Z, right? Most people I talk to do this, and here's the problem with that. So all the different prompts for that same audience now exist in our studio, and you can record, just like we're on camera right now, you record the content in a 60-second clip, choose your camera, choose your mic, and you just answer the question like you're in a customer call, because that's how it feels. You don't have to do any research because these questions are stuff that your audience is dealing with, that if you know your stuff, it should be no problem for you to answer how to fix, a weak top of funnel and sort through some of those things. All you do is hit submit. It goes back to our human editing team. Our humans apply all of your personal brand artifacts. If you don't have them, we create them. So logo, however you want your subtitles to look, we add the jump cuts, the zooms, all those things, so that all you had to do was show up, talk about what you know for your audience, walk away, and we deliver back a fully branded video, and we write your LinkedIn posts using very good LinkedIn template structure. But we took your transcription and we wrote the post from exactly what you said. So we have big brands like TikTok Business, we have Workday, we have some smaller brands like Softer. So big companies is where we started doing this exact same thing for their C-suite, for their product development teams, all this stuff. But now we're letting individuals use it and create content.
Yeah, wow. I see that growing like gangbusters this year. And because personal brand is everything, right? Companies, their company content kind of falls flat, but if they let the individuals, the outgoing personalities of their company kind of run with that. I mean, if they can be augmented by a tool like DEMANDI,
Yes.
wow, it's just accelerate the viralness and the attraction and the conversions that their content can make.
That's it. And part of what we do, even for the individuals, is we scrape all the posts and pull down all the people who are engaging. And we have you identify who your ICP is, because you already talked about your audience. And we say, this is a person who works at a company who fits in your ICP and is the right title. Here's who you should go engage with, right? And so we produce that list. So we're kind of monitoring those signals, plus the signals of other people already creating content around you. So if I had my open to work, what's interesting is that there's 340 million people in the United States on LinkedIn. Out of that, something like 39.1 million have their open to work badge. Out of anybody on LinkedIn, only 1% actually create content. So if we think about that, all people who are open to work who actually create content is only 390,000 people across all industries, all companies, everything, right? Janitors to CEOs, whatever it is. When you think about what can differentiate you in your job search, it's hard when you get fired and you have to take a knee. It's a kick to the gut, all the emotional things that everybody has gone through. But when you stand yourself back up and you start to get back engaged in that job hunt, how do you get people to know who you are and how you think about the problems that they want you to come solve in their business? The best way to do that is through short form video, rapid clips that really hit the pain point of what your future hiring manager might be interested in, right? And so that kind of content, plus as a strategy, people, like you said, our brands are hiring people who are already interested in building their personal brands because they know it creates affinity in the audiences that they're always trying to reach.
Very cool.
So yeah.
So when it comes to like defining a niche or your target market, how granular should a founder, like a go-to-market team be? Like, is there an ideal range for like the number of potential customers in a market before it's worthy of calling that a niche?
Yeah, I think your job is initially, so like with DEMANDI, the whole thing is to develop a hypothesis and then iterate as fast as you can. And when we developed our hypothesis, we thought, okay, let's just, maybe we're go to network, or there was a number of different things that we thought about positioning ourselves as. But I think our job as founders is to say no to as many different ideas and opportunities as we possibly can and try to be super, super relevant to 1,000 people. And so we had the idea in March of 2024, had an MVP in market by, I think, within 90 days, and we were asking customers to pay for it. Brands were paying for it. So then we took more money and invested in SaaS. We rolled that out in August. And from August to December, we were able to get 20 clients, each paying $5,000 a month. So we hit our 1 million ARR. And that's when you could say I've validated product market fit. And it was because we weren't trying to be everything to everybody. We absolutely niched down to the point that we probably had, just within our mine and my co-founder's mutual network, we probably had about 800 people that we could go and ask that were either acquaintances or friends in position to make a purchase decision on a price tag this small. And that, for me, is the fastest way to get your company up and out of the ground. Not try to be everything to everybody, because you can change the messaging on your website in a day, right? And keep servicing your current customers. Just be insanely valuable to a very, 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 very small population. And then it decreases everything about what's hard to launch a company. What do I say? How do I message it? Well, it's not relevant for them. If you try to be a lot of things to more people, the messaging job gets hard. Your outbound messaging job gets hard. More importantly, the iterations and testing get hard because there's just too much volume for you to actually be able to execute on. So your job when you're trying to get out of the gate is niche down, say no to as many different opportunities that you think you can, and just tee off on the one that you think is the absolute most valuable.
Yeah. Wow. This is going to be a huge opportunity, I feel like, for the headhunter community like myself, because we're all trying to differentiate. And, I struggle a lot with niching down. I do hear, the more you niche down, the easier your life will become. And, my market has kind of shifted over the years. It's all kind of been just customer driven, right? Just kind of go where the customers are. Oh, okay. And, I'm doing software engineering now. Okay, I'm doing software engineers and tests now. This is my thing. Oh, now I'm doing cybersecurity here recently. Well, in the past, like sales and marketing, recruiting has always been on my menu, but more of like a side quest, right? When it comes in, I'll fill those, but my bread and butter has always been software engineering and cybersecurity. And I've had to shift here in the past year because the only roles that I've been able to find with clients that are actually willing to pay a recruiting fee are for revenue producing jobs in sales and marketing. So I've kind of made this wholesale pivot into that. And I'm just wondering if that in itself is even enough, because let's say, for example, I'm, wanting to niche down even more and just focus on, going after sales enablement platforms in that particular industry and just focus on like 25 to 30 companies in that specific niche and only recruit sales, customer success, and marketing people for those companies. I mean, that would be a much more well-defined niche, would you say?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if I was, if I was in your shoes, there's niche and specialization, right? So just because it's niche doesn't mean that it has to be small. So when I built Amp Factor, partner marketing and ABM is so specialized that it basically made it a no-brainer when anytime I would run up against my target persona, because they're like, oh, these guys do everything general and you guys are specialized here. But the market for that, like I said, Microsoft has 492,000 partners and they spend something like a few $1 billion funding marketing campaigns for their partners, right? So the opportunity for me I built a $4 million company in 36 months just doing partner marketing. So super niche, but it was specialized with a massive, massive volume. So if I'm a headhunter, what I would be doing is specialize down as much as you can, and then partner with a bunch of other people who are specialized, and then basically have an agreement where if I get an inbound lead or someone looks at me for X, Y, and Z, I'm sending them to you. Do me a favor and send them back to me if they come looking for what I'm looking. Now, everybody can kind of operate as this ecosystem where it doesn't even need to be formalized, but the introduction process so that you get to have value of 100% of the people that you're talking to. If they're not a fit for you, you can send business to other people. You know what I mean? And
I've kind of tinkered around with that in the past, and it's kind of, never really worked out. And I think that works better in, really strong candidate market, not necessarily an employer's market, because, the volume that agency headhunters receive, like in terms of job orders, go way down. And whereas you used to have 20 to 30 job orders on your desk at any given time, now I'm like super excited if I've got 5 solid job orders. So if I get number 6, right, I don't care what the skill set is, like I'm going to work on it,
Right.
So thinking about handing that off, but maybe that's like a paradigm shift I need to make is, hey, this is not what I do, right? You need to go to this other person for that. But you mentioned persona. What is the best process for defining a persona?
You gotta talk to your prospective customer, and that's it. And I know it sucks as a founder to have conversations where you're not going to sell something, especially when you desperately want to sell something, right? And you want money and it's the right person. But if you take the approach that if you have 100 conversations with the people that you think, and you can do it in 30 days, with the people that you think are your target buyer, just to validate, and you have to dress up how you position this, but your intent is that you are going to validate what you're going to bring to market, and that the problems that you think are an actual problem are real, and how they talk about it, right? And so if you can learn how they talk about it, and then having 100 conversations allows you to develop a rhetoric that lets you speak about their problem even better than they can do it, and you can articulate the pains faster than they can and the outcomes and how to fix it, that puts you in a thought leadership position, even if you're doing something brand new,
Right.
because you know their problem more intimately than they do, even though they're dealing with it.
Yeah, I guess DEMANDI can help eliminate a lot of the imposter syndrome you might feel if you're trying to go to market in a new segment, right? If you got DEMANDI,
Yeah.
make it easy for you to come
Well,
up with that,
here's the thing, is that
empowering content.
that's it. And so most people, if you're not on video in front of your audience or you're just writing is still powerful too, right? But you can't see my energy when I write words, right? And when I think about solving the customer's problem, the specific way that I talk about solving it. If you're hesitant to get on LinkedIn, what we're trying to do is move the value that they would have in a face-to-face conversation up before the conversion point of where they have to decide, do I want to invest in deciding and meeting this person? And the more often you do that, the more frequently you're going to have people coming inbound. That's just what it is. And if you have the customer conversations happening on the side, your engagement will go up. And that's what people miss, is that, oh, if I just show up on LinkedIn, I'll be great. No, you have to be building friendships. I tell all of our new customers, when you start, identify 100 people that you can go have a non-sales conversation with and create a connection. Just engage on the same things that they care about and make a new friend. Your job is just to make a new friend on that call, because when you post content next, their new friend, they're going to engage with that. All of a sudden, your stuff is going to go up and you'll get deeper market penetration into your ICP. And you just create this recursive loop that, yes, your engagement is going to be on the floor. Who gives a shit? You know that this can grow your business. So get on video, start showing people what you know, start researching and then growing what you know, stay on top of stuff, lead the market. You know what I mean? And you don't even have to be out in front. You could be right in the middle of the pack, because only 1% is actually creating content and less than that is creating video. So to be found, LinkedIn is pushing 10 to 20x. If I didn't have a job, what I would be doing is just recording myself as often as possible and getting out there in the space that I wanted to work in. Even if I said, hey, I'm brand new to this space, but I'm researching and this is what I found. Most old companies are doing it this way, this way, this way. That doesn't seem like it makes any goddamn sense. What we should be doing is saying this, 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 and bring your own energy. If you try to polish things up too much, you lose who you are. And they're not hiring the polished version of you. They're losing the you in the meeting room that's going to help them figure a problem out and say, that doesn't make any goddamn sense.
Yeah, you nailed it there. So you talk about, on your profile, it even says a term that I'm not super familiar with, the ecosystem-led growth. And it sounds intriguing. Can you kind of explain that concept for us just in plain terms?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if you're building a business, there's already people who are known and trusted selling to the people that you want to get an intro to or that you want airtime with, right? So that's an ecosystem that basically maps to, if I'm selling to a VP of sales, I know the technology that person's using. He's probably using, or she is probably using Clay. They're probably using LinkedIn Sales Navigator. They're probably using Apollo. They're probably using some other outbound dialer. They're probably running webinars with X, Y, and Z. So all of these people, the people at these companies, are people in the ecosystem that I want to be in. They're already in my customer's workflow, and I'm trying to attach myself to that customer workflow. The things that they use day in and day out, and the things that they do as in their business as usual. So ecosystem-led growth is, I can stand here on camera and talk about my product all day long. Yes, you should do that so people know, but it's always better to have somebody in a room that you're not in talking about your value, right? And so insofar as you've built those friendships and relationships where you agree to, and you're going after the same target audience, you should be thinking about the same things from different points of view and different ways of thinking, right? And the audience values all of that perspective. And so what we say to brands is, you can stand up on a soapbox and carnival bark all the things that you do all day long. And when we see your ad, we don't trust it. And you say that you help 4x revenue, great. Who gives a shit? You and everybody else, right? But if Blake comes on on a video or in a DM and says, hey, dude, I'm not sure if you're thinking about working on X, Y, and Z problem in the sales workflow, whatever it is, but we started using Clay and man, you should check it out. Or you do a video, and that video talks about how your business is using Clay to solve XYZ problem. When I see that times 100, right, multiple times throughout the month, I'm getting not force fed, but I'm getting fed all of the different value that the brand would actually want to communicate. right, from other people. So from trusted messengers. So ecosystem-led growth marketing is, instead of running ads and dumping money into that ad budget, what you should do is invite and incentivize a whole bunch of people who are already selling to your audience to create content with you that aligns with their POV, so they can have their own authentic perspective and deliver content consistently that way. And you're basically creating content in market with your customer and their partners and the people that they already buy from. So at any point in time, like if you created content with me and I push that out on my profile, all my audience is going to see that. You know what I mean? So you just got exposed to my customers, my opportunities, and my prospects, the people I went to college with, people I was in the Army with. If any one of them actually has a problem that you solve and you talked about it on that video, they're going to hand raise, they're going to engage, and bingo, we've got inbound. Just do that times 100.
Yeah, I guess that's part of the benefit of a podcast too, is kind of mix matching your audience there. And
Yes.
When I step back and think about it, a lot of the content doesn't actually get direct conversion and direct inbound, but it's like somebody that is following refers someone that, like they see it and then refer somebody else to me indirectly.
Yes.
That didn't see my content. So it kind of, comes full circle there. So either way,
Absolutely.
it's good to put it out.
Absolutely. Oh, it absolutely is. I'm not saying you shouldn't do branded content. You absolutely should. Podcast accomplishes the exact same thing that we're doing on LinkedIn. Either way, we want a bunch of people to get exposed to the content and be able to eventually buy or refer us. Because to be honest, 5% of the market's in market. What we're saying is, as opposed to outbound, where you would try to, burn the orchard to get to the low hanging fruit, what you could do is just influence the orchard, right? And then let the natural process, like what you just said, you'll eventually get bought or referred by the people who it's timely for. And people will take your content and deploy it into the communities they're in, where they learn, share, and grow. Again, trusted messenger, opportunity for intro.
Now, do you still run ads? Is that something that you're into?
Oh, you should absolutely do that. You should absolutely do that. But what we say is, like, most people think about, LinkedIn is good to go and test a message. Well, I think it's shifted. LinkedIn is the place, right? It's one of the places. If you don't have an owned audience or massive traffic to your website, then this is the place, because it doesn't need to be any longer. We have the attention span of squirrels and birds. And this is the way to create a concrete memory of who you are, so that when I do have a problem, you're who I think of. Because if you can be consistent, you'll be familiar. If you're familiar, you'll be remembered. And if you're remembered, you'll eventually be bought and referred. So you should absolutely do both. When your organic stuff, the beautiful thing is LinkedIn is awesome about is that if I create content with a bunch of other people and they push it out in their social profile, I can just invite them and request to boost whatever post it is that I loved that aligns with my messaging. It doesn't matter who they are. They can just hit accept, and I can put ad dollars behind that and push it out to my audience. If that's co-branded, then I'm getting the value of their thought leadership and putting it in front of our folks. So I think you should do both, 100%.
Okay. And do you ever support a company or a client that you're dealing with? They probably have a product, but they're also trying to attract talent to their organization. So do you also partner with people in HR, people in talent acquisition that's trying to attract talent to their organization?
100%. So we have a company called Learn It, and they actually go in and they help people upskill, and they attach to HR departments that have small L&D teams or no L&D teams and implement upskilling practices. But what that CEO has done is he's got 17 people from all around his company creating content and deploying it out into their audiences. So they talk about, yes, their programs and how they help customers, and they have some customers invited to campaigns, but they also have HR people talking about the roles that they're opening up or thinking about opening up in the company. They even talk about asking the audience about how would you incentivize X, Y, and Z for this type of role, right? Getting that content out there shows the kind of culture of the organization. So I think it's a massive opportunity, especially because HR, is not necessarily in charge of the culture, but they're a large contributor to what it feels like to work at a company. Those types of departments should be pushing out content if they want to be hyper competitive in terms of attracting the right talent.
Nice. So let's talk about AI for a little bit, and then AI in marketing. I know DEMANDI has an agent that's gonna help you create content, but what else are you really excited about this year that AI might be able to do for you?
The cloning piece. So I say video is a really heavy thing. You can already clone your voice, but being able to clone your image so that it doesn't look like your lips and eyes are doing doing weird things, right? They're getting to the point where it's almost 4K from an image. And so I think we might see it this year where you can easily just upload images, still frames of yourself, and then record your voice, clone your voice, your same talking pattern, and then also have the video of what you want to say, go text to video, not with a bunch of random things jumping in, but just you in a frame doing your thing or in multiple frames, which is great for me as a creator because like my Instagram, the last time I posted was like 2022 and it was like 2 or 3 posts. I'm not that social media guy. I'm not comfortable with that. I just don't do it, but growing a business, I feel like it'll become insanely easier and we will 100% have it in the platform for people to do.
I've seen some of those and I've tinkered around with HeyGen and just for fun, right? I was like, what would it look like if I did this? And I wasn't completely convinced. I feel like it made me all vanilla, right? It didn't have my accent. Like the voice wasn't there. I could immediately tell, but some of these models that are coming out from China, I can't name any. They come across my feed all the time, and some of these Instagram accounts I follow. But you're right. You upload a picture, and it's like I'm just shocked by it. It's insane.
Oh,
You just take a picture, and it's just incredible.
Yeah, it's crazy. So we have a target customer, Lenovo, that one of our partners is going to do an introduction to. And I was like, okay. So I went to deep research and I started asking it to go find out what Lenovo's revenue was, find out how many partners there were, find out how much they were spending on sales and marketing, find out how much they were spending on content, then find out how much they were spending on short form video, and then create an analysis of which departments and which regions those funds were being allocated to and at what percentage, so that I walked into that deal knowing 100% of who's spending money on what and how much, or at least directionally I had that. And it took like 11 minutes to run, but man, it created a 3-page brief for me on the target people and their pain points that we should likely align our offer to in terms of how we message and price. And the way that I also included how they like to buy from vendors. The amount of things you can get done in 12 minutes now is just insane. You'd need an MBA with a consulting background to even be able to touch some of this stuff.
Yeah, wow. And even like the job seeking community, they're constantly applying to jobs and the stats are just brutal. It's so brutal because on average, people have to apply to, it's like close to 300 jobs to land a job. And there's a 99.7% failure rate when you click apply that anything's going to happen. Right. It's probably going to go into the black hole. So that can help a lot. I mean, if you're a job seeker and you've got a in-demand niche skill set and you're trying to get attention for yourself, you might even want to look into DEMANDI and put in what your goal is to land a job with a company like X, Y, or Z. And, how can you market your skill set to them? Like if you're pumping out 8 high quality videos a month, shoot, I mean, it could take your job search down from where it would have been 6 to 9 months. Maybe it's only going to be 60 days now because your content's out there.
And when you think about it, I mean, that's a great point. When you think about what the recruiter is going through, people can use AI to apply. So they're inundated. They've got a million resumes now and custom written cover letters and all that good stuff that are all personalized. So my thing is when people go right, go left, or if people go left, go right, whatever it is, your job is to stand out because different gets attention and attention can convert. Right. So if you have content on your profile, if less than 1% of the people are creating content, period, on LinkedIn, some subset smaller than that are also open to work, right? Some subset smaller than that are actually creating content. So that to me says this is a big opportunity for me to go left when anybody can deliver a personalized resume with great bullet points and a good cover letter and a great opening message and all this other shit. They have a big stack of them already. But every single recruiter for any potential person is going to go look at their LinkedIn and look at what they're doing. They're just checking out your socials, all this other stuff. If they can get exposed to you and how you think, how you are, all that kind of stuff, and make some preconceived notions about your culture or how you might be a fit, then there's a stronger opportunity that you will stand out no matter what above other folks, right? And so including that LinkedIn link direct to your profile, feature your videos, and then bingo, Bob's your uncle. We're standing out left, right, and center.
Listen up, folks. Check it out, demandi.co. And I coach people as well, after they apply to jobs, right? You can't just not do anything after that, right? You have to do some follow-up work on LinkedIn, connect with the people at that company, try to get their attention, engage with their content. And when they do accept your request, now the door is open for you to send them a message. Don't just type a message. You can send an audio message in the mobile app. You can send a 1-minute audio message or a 2-minute video message. You should take advantage of that. Use it as a little micro interview. But if you've already got a ton of content on your profile in video format, you may not even need that.
That's it. Or you can just automate dropping links, right? Because if you're talking about X, Y, and Z, and you've researched X, Y, a bunch of companies that have that problem, and you're speaking directly to it and how you solve it, just connect with that person and just straight up just send the link and don't send anything else, because it'll automatically open up the open graph image of your video and people will click and see, right? You don't even have to cold pitch and introduce yourself and say, hey, I'm Blake Williams and I got X amount of, no one gives a shit yet. No one cares yet. Right. So share some stuff with them. You know what I mean? Leverage that content and make it work for you. And if it's not one of those branded up videos of yourself, then I think 100%, Blake, you hit the nail on the head. Pop open your camera. Don't do it in your office. Go outside like a person, walk your dog, have your kids in the background, and just do an authentic video and just write your pitch down before. You know what I mean? Write your pitch down. Yeah. Don't rehearse it. Just get it out, but be authentic.
Darren McGee talks about that a lot on LinkedIn. You follow Darren?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, his content's fantastic.
He really does a good job. Yeah, it looks like he might be using DEMANDI. Some of his videos are looking fire with all his graphics and everything.
I wish he was. If he's listening, come on over, brother.
We'll check it out. I have to, give me your referral link. I'll send it to him.
Yeah, I will.
So you were thinking about starting a podcast, I heard in one of your other ones there, and I think it was going to be called like Underrated, but I looked it up. I was going to go find it. And it looked like somebody else had snagged that name. Have you thought about something else, or what's the plan now?
There's another company that we're connected with called BlinkLink, and they basically took all the infrastructure that you would need to create TikTok, which is basically have a scrollable feed, a super feed that you could doom scroll on. And one of the things that I went and did was I went and bought partnertalk.com. Because I talk about partnerships, it's an area for us to let people come and create content on DEMANDI for free if you're talking about partnerships. And you can post it on LinkedIn. They'll be fully branded in your stuff, but we're syndicating a channel. So if you ever want to learn about partnerships, you can go to partnertalk.com and you'll have a TikTok style experience where we're pulling in thought leadership from how to run affiliate programs or affiliate outcomes or partnership or ecosystem or reseller or systems integrator. This whole ecosystem space, you could do it with ABM. You could do it with hiring, but we're syndicating all that content basically to drive traffic to a single spot and then leveraging that in newsletters and pushing short form video through that to keep people engaged and give them more of what they want. It's kind of like a customized LinkedIn, if you will, so that you can get exposed to content, and we're trying to grow viewership and that kind of stuff. So that's one of our big initiatives rather than going in on a podcast. But my co-founder just left a company called Speak On Podcast. They bought him out and merged with another company, but Speak On Podcast would help you get placed on a bunch of different podcasts. So he loves it. He actually called and had some prep points for me before this podcast, so which is how I got the 39.1 million with the open to work badge on.
Interesting. Yeah. I struggle with trying to promote my content, and I've got LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Rumble, all the stuff, and YouTube's harder than it looks. Yeah. It really is. Like we're trying to get 300 subscribers, and I've been posting for years. Now I know my problem. I really haven't been consistent about talking about the same thing. What's my channel for? What can you find here? I've been confusing the hell out of people, and that's my own fault. But how can content creators position themselves to be considered for a sponsorship program or a referral program?
Just in general, so like brand sponsorships or as a partner. I think that the more value you are delivering to a single audience puts you in position for both things to happen. One, because brands are paying to access other audiences. And some people we've seen get paid $20,000 for a couple spots, and some people do it for free. Some people get paid a few hundred or a few thousand. But the more of a relationship that you have with your audience, it doesn't need to be big. You know what I mean? It does not need to be big. We've incentivized some people that have 2,000 and 3,000 person audiences for a few hundred or $1,000. The goal is, what is the ICP density of that audience, which means how concentrated is your audience or your network of the people that that brand is wanting to sell to or wanting to market to. So if you talk about one single or multiple scenarios to just one single audience again and again, and you blow up the volume and variety of content that you're delivering there, you will position yourself to be relevant to those other brands that are along that customer's workflow, right? So if they use Greenhouse and they use XYZ API to manage their hiring process, then you know the common problems that they go through. Niche it down to sales and marketing teams dealing with Greenhouse as a software and trying to hire for X, Y, and Z roles. Now we know what the situation is. Let's only talk about the content that applies to that relationship. Because like you said, most people are talking about everything under the sun. But if I'm the go-to for that situation, and that's common enough, then I should never want.
Yeah. Early on when I started making videos, it started as like just stuff that I found funny. And they were mostly like recruiter skit videos.
Yeah.
And they got a ton of engagement, a lot of likes, and it felt great, right? A lot of comments. Yes. But when I looked at who's viewing your profile, right? Who's like engaging with your stuff the most, it was other recruiters. And I'm like, well, that's not my goal. You know, right. I'm here to like get clients for, that are hiring, right? I'm here for other recruiters. So that's when I kind of switched it to, all right, let's do the cybersecurity podcast. And now I've kind of expanded that to HR approved podcast. We're talking a kind of a broader audience there, but I think, still trying to just define that ICP and just being laser focused on that it's the secret sauce, but it's also the hardest thing to do.
Let me give you this, because I think that you should bring that back. So when you think about the funnel, right, we have different layers, and ultimately you have this upper portion of the funnel and then the bottom, because people don't get in the middle of a funnel. They either have a problem you're going to solve and they're in market looking for you, or they don't have a problem. I don't care if I see an ad for a GMC truck yesterday. If I don't need one, I'm not fucking buying one ever, right? You're not going to bring me, I'm not in the middle of your funnel. I'm either in the market doing research and getting one, or I'm not. Same thing with SaaS. Same thing with services. I'm either in the market for it or not. So your funnel is split this way. You should be creating content that gets you a ton of reach and adds in more people into your network. You want to pay attention to who's checking out your profile, but not too early. So create content for them, but also create content for your niche and your specialized market. You have to split the diversity of your content and feather both of those things in. When you do that, I think you're goosing the algorithm to show that when you create content, other people that are like these people engage. And then when you create lower in the funnel content, because your audience is growing, it'll show more content to the people that are like the people that engage with that, right? So you're pressing the gas on both sides of the funnel on the algorithm. So I think that you should go back to the skit stuff. One, people love it. Two, it's your personality and it brings who you are into the mix. Also, just add in that very niche down content that's for people who are lower in the funnel, trying to figure out how to solve X, Y, and Z problem. If you do that, I think you'll have it made. I think that'll solve the problem.
All right, I'll take your advice on that. Let me think of some funny skits to come up with. Since LinkedIn changed their algorithm and now they're promoting all this video, I feel like I just take videos I did a year ago and just repost them.
You should repost. Here's the thing that people like, you're an expert in what you do and the problem that you solve. There's not too much to know about it. There's probably 50 POVs that you could have that anybody give a shit about. You should create content on those 50 POVs and then recycle those things. And we see the recycle pattern as somewhere around after 90 days, it'll probably do better the second time you post. So there's not an infinite volume of content that you should be creating, but you should create a larger variety of content about the same POVs along the same messaging, right? Again and again. And that's kind of the structuring that we help individuals just think through and then go through the actual process of documenting, because we have all of that content. We help you put that into a workflow and then establish a calendar. So you take all the thought about what I'm going to create today. We're already diversifying your content. We're splitting it for upper funnel, lower funnel. So funny stuff, pictures of my cat and kids, skits, all the stuff that everybody can relate to, because more people can relate, it's going to get reach. And then bottom of the funnel stuff, we want to teach, we want to show, we want to prove, all of that stuff, that's lower funnel. So we mix out your content calendar to make sure that you're doing that. And then we get you on a recycle, right? Recycle, reuse, or rethink things.
Interesting. Okay. I was even scared to repost something. I feel like I would want a whole year to go by.
Yeah.
You're saying it's much faster than that. Every 90 days, you can start recycling almost.
There's a psychological thing that if they don't see you on LinkedIn or just in general see ads 12 times a month, a minimum of 12 times, they forget you exist entirely, right? So the chances that they're going to remember what I said from a specific video, it's not going to happen, at least not in any period of time 3 months after or 2 months after. They definitely won't remember it specifically, but they'll remember how we made them feel, and they'll remember the memory of what I feel like Blake represents, right? And so all we're trying to do with video is, again, show them and help them feel something. That's why stories do so well. You see this, I talked to a CEO who of $1 billion company, blah, 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 blah. Okay, you're telling a story. So I get insight into something that I haven't seen before. And that's why those things do so well. If you teach during that process, you included a little bit of story and some education. Do I remember what you said? Hell no. Do I remember the person? Absolutely not. Even the people I follow all the time. But I know that you talk to those people about XYZ problem. I could take those things away. And if I can create a memory trigger around that again and again and again, what problem I solve and who I do it for, I'm the guy.
There you have it. Yeah, I feel like I'm going to have to re-listen to this podcast a couple times. I want what you're saying to just kind of soak in, Yeah. So do you have any questions for me that you like to ask?
Yeah. Actually, let's talk about the skits. I struggle creating my own content, right? It's not easy. The problem that we're trying to solve, I'm trying to solve my own problem, right? So when you think about creating a skit, I have all kinds of skits around problems that I know people are dealing with when they sit there on Slack or in a meeting. And when you create a skit, how do you go through and you create it? What's your process?
Oh God, normally starts with something I'm annoyed by or just pissed off about, or, something I feel like other people might relate to. And the idea, normally what happens is the whole thing comes to me in like a flash. And I get all the scenes. Oh, in this scene here, I'll piece that together. And I do those on my phone. Right? I just use them. I just build them and edit them in InShot.
Yeah.
And it's all done on my phone. I don't have to pull up CapCut or anything like I do with podcasting and other videos. So it's all on InShot. And normally I can just knock it out, the whole thing, inside of 45 minutes to an hour.
Really?
And boom, there it is. But it's like, don't overthink it, just turn the camera on and start acting out this skit, right? And you may have to do another take. I'll typically take it scene by scene, and I'll do like 2 or 3 options of that scene. And then when I'm going through and editing, I'll look at all 3 and pick the one that hits the best.
Yeah.
And, just keep it under, well, now you can do 3 minutes because YouTube finally opened up their shorts to go to 3 minutes. Thank God. Because you used to have to do like Instagram would let you do 90 seconds. TikTok was 3 minutes. YouTube was 1 minute. It's like, dude, I got to create 3 different versions of this video. Like, I hate this. So now they're all, running on the same show now. So it's a lot easier. Just keep it under 3 minutes. And you're good to go.
So this is where I struggle. I have no problem if you want me to talk about a framework, a model, a process, a workflow, a strategy, get up in front of a conference. I've spoken at conferences of hundreds of people before. That is no sweat to me. I'll do that all day. But if you want me to be funny or talk about scenarios, I don't get embarrassed easy. It's just I second guess the shit out of myself. You know what I mean? And even though I know the problem, I know what I'm trying to make fun of. You know what I mean? Or I know what would be funny to the audience, but just bringing myself to actually just execute it is, I have this, I don't know if it's like that feeling that right before you jump out of a plane, you're like, I shouldn't be doing this, right? That brief thought.
Yeah. There's a creator that I really enjoy. His name is Tom Boston.
Okay.
He's like a UK sales guy. He makes, account executive and SaaS sales humor.
Yeah.
Now, I haven't seen some good skits out of him in a little while, but he was throwing some bangers out there. He's got different characters that he reuses. He's got the sales manager and the top performer, and then like the bottom of the barrel sales rep, and they all, talk to each other in the same skits. It normally, the funny part involves multiple characters that you have to play. So you really just need like, all right, this character's going to have this shirt with these glasses. This character over here is going to have a backwards hat, with this shirt. maybe
Yes.
a slightly different accent, and you can go about it that way. And you find inspiration everywhere. These other silly people on Instagram, I forget the guy's name now. I have to try to clip him in, but his whole feed is like these little pretend little acting scenarios with himself playing different characters. And those are the funniest ones, man. I can scroll through those all day.
I tell you what, if I was looking for a job, I mean, yeah, do videos in Demandi, or yeah, set a 2-minute outside and just being authentic. But if you send me a skit that's funny and it's you talking about a problem, I'm having a conversation with you. Yeah. I'm having a conversation. Even if you're not a fit, I want to have a conversation with you, and I'm going to see if there's other people that I know that I could put you with that would hire you up. You know what I mean? That may be one key. That's a super different thing. Always to go left when they go right. That's a super different thing that I can guarantee probably 10 people might be doing, period, across every industry and every size of company. And I know it's powerful, which is why I want to do it. I just need to shake off that fear. I can tell you the engagement was so much better. And I complained about it early on when I started the podcast, because I would put out the podcast clips and I still put them out and it's dead. It's dead. Yeah. Like a couple likes, maybe 2 comments. Yeah. And anything I try to do a serious conversation, it just kind of falls flat compared to what I was getting when I was doing stupid skits. So it's like, well, maybe podcasting isn't the way to go. Maybe just go all in on these skits and just keep that alive. You got to pack them. What do they call it? A shit sandwich, right? Put your skit in front and then deliver your thought leadership and put your skit right behind it, right? So like, pack it right in. Or same thing with the podcast thing. But also remember that what you do on LinkedIn outside of the feed also impacts what your feed is going to do. Connect with those 100 people every single 90 days. It could be 100 different people, whatever it is, or the same 100 people, but just make sure you're building friendships around those things. And again, and again, and again, the more disciplined you are in building those relationships, the better you're going to see your content get to 150, 300, 500, 1,000 likes. Love it. Love it. This has been a good one, man. You've been an awesome guest. I really appreciate you coming on. And yeah, you've inspired me. And now I feel like I need to kind of niche down. I need to get 1,000 prospects. That's a qualified niche right there. Any more than that, it's too big. All right. That's it. Great advice. I'm going to check out DEMANDI as well. If anybody's listening and open to work, just between Blake and I, we'll get him a referral link and get you $100 off just to get going, right? If you wanted to get 8 videos going and start getting out there in the feed, we'll give Blake a referral link and the discount code and happiness guarantee. Just because you're converting off of this podcast, if you mention it and you use his code, we'll give you 100% of your money back if you're not absolutely happy with the process. Our goal is just to make it easy to get started and then keep you going and keep you happy. So the rent's due every single month. It's a month-to-month thing. We'd love to have you. Can't wait to put that in the show notes and description, links everywhere. Yeah. There you go. So good deal. Where else can people find you? Find me on LinkedIn. It's Blake Williams at DEMANDI, DEMANDI.co. If you see the website, none of that personal offer will be there. It'll all be speaking to brands. So you'll have to come through that link in the podcast or come directly to my profile and just add me. All right. You'll be able to find that link anywhere you see a video with Blake Williams and Blake Williams. There'll be a link there. So Blake and Blake. Good deal, man. It's been fun. We need to do this again. 6 months from now, let's chat again. I'm down like 4 flat tires. Let's do it, man. Thanks. You've been generous with the time, man. Take care. Have a good one. Thanks, man.